20 hotspots suddenly appeared in California, all rather in a row, reaching temperatures of over 1,000 degrees. A tsunami sprung from the Atlantic and washed over Florida coast to coast. Another one came forth in the mid-Pacific, from the deep Marianas Trench sinking Baja. Mexico City disappeared into a volcanic eruption. Quebec province was severed from Canada by quakes and floated back towards France, which is where they wanted to be anyway. Africa rose 8 feet in an hour. The Indian Ocean washed out Sri Lanka and entered the Indian subcontinent. Siberia sunk into a mush of methane gas. Sicily got the boot from Italy. Alaska gushed oil all over the place. Turkey was devoured by Hungary. Arkansas became just Ark. The Eiffel Tower, La Tour Eiffel, lived up to its name and tipped over. Gibraltar fell and sunk and closed off the Mediterranean Sea. Ostino and Passiona were using Rascal's backup jet and were about to land in LA when the jet suddenly veered off and applied full power to its engines. All were aghast to see the LAX airport fracture and slide into the ocean. Nearly out of gas, they landed at the base of the nearby mountains. Their only clue was that the mountains would be safe. In India, Greg and Melanie headed north toward the Himalayas. Mohan remembered his youth and went up the mountains near Mysore where he lived. Lesky climbed up the backbone of New Zealand. Graham was picked up by Papa and they were soon off to the Canadian Rockies in a large truck. Yellowstone National Park blew Magna through its 40-mile radius, a prelude to the big one that was still 30,000 years overdue. There would not be much left of the states west of the Mississippi River. The Amazon jungle flooded. Mauna Kea erupted and buried Hilo, Hawaii. Krakatoa came to life. Sumatra went under. Finally, the San Andreas Fault could take it no more and moved 1,200 feet. What was left of California had become a small island. New Orleans was washed away. Mexico moved into Texas, which indeed once it was. Notre Dame Cathedral in France crumbled away into dust. Russia shook and shook. Japan went under. In the Philippines, only the mountains broke the sea. Australia just about cracked in half. Antarctica sunk 10 feet and out of sight. The pyramids crumbled, exposing the rulers of old. Panama closed. Vatican City was no more. The internet slowed, but still functioned wirelessly somewhat. Ashes fell everywhere like snow. It was all the mother of all near extinctions, one that might erase 99.99% of all life. To the earth, though, it was but a mere shiver, hiccup, and a burp all at once. The pub and the tow center were safe, they being in the same secret place on a mountain in Oahu that had been born on the yet stable portion of the ocean floor. A 50-mile section of the Alps disappeared, looking as if it were never there. You could see right through the gap. Dust blotted out the sun, but for those places in or above the clouds, which, remarkably, became much warmer, while the ground temperature dropped some 10 degrees. Eruptions were diminishing to a low rumble. Austin and Passiona climbed the mountains, noting the water seeping toward, off in the distance. They had taken what they could carry from the plane: an emergency tent, some weapons, their suitcases, a book on edible plants, a tiny stove, a pedal charger, and many provisions. In order to make it in time, they slowed and paced themselves onward and upward, soon arriving in a meadow and resting. "This is hard work," mentioned Ostino. "Yes, but didn't all that tennis help?" asked Passiona. "It did perhaps, but tennis courts are level, not uphill. I'm using muscles seldom used. And didn't you climb ladders at your job?" "Yes, but not enough of them, I guess." "When we get high enough, but still well within the tree line, we'll need to walk the trail to find some kind of airy, cavernous, overhanging shelter near a stream. The animals will come there to drink too. Yes, we'll have to get to know them." "Oh my, look at the size of that wave arriving in the distance. My God, it's a 100-foot wall of water. We are now on the new west coast of America. Rascal's jet just went under. He has a duplicate. Actually, this one was his backup jet. That jet has gone through a lot. No place to fly to, at least for a long while. They had to walk perhaps 4 miles left and right to make 1 mile upward, much of it sideways and winding about, such as a mountain road would do. Clouds of ash were forming and dimming the sunlight. We'll have to get above this stuff soon. Mind if I smoke? Go ahead, the world is turning into one big ashtray. A few hours of struggling on and ever upwards through the chill air, and they broke through into the light again. Ah, warmth has returned. The sunlight is scattering off of the dust layer that it can hardly penetrate. They came to a glade that had a stream-fed pool of clear water that ever amounted from the melting snow atop the mountains. It was perhaps 200 feet across and was nicely tucked into the towering trees and the mountainside. This is home.
It was as hot as Hades this morning, but little did I know that the underworlded Pluto was hell-bent on extracting revenge for his demotion to the infernal regions. The bright afternoon turned as black as Satan's heart, as the ominous-type clouds soon hid the mountaintops. I lit a candle. The branches flew, the cats hid, the thunder shook, the yard flooded, and the negative balanced the positive as electrons and photons surged forth in bolts, all as I watched from the garage. Above me, light burnt not the clouds away. Below me, the earth yet turned under my feet. Within me, unworded dreams haunted my soul. Around me, hell's master poured blackness on the ground. Satan had broken free from his block of ice, where Dante had placed him, in the heart of hell, showering the earth with hail and a hell of a storm that had goodness on the run. It was he, the devil, that once said, through Milton's pen, that it was better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. Now he had upped it to, it's better to reign on earth. So I said to myself, Self, are you still there, or have you gone apparent? I was still there, in a netherworld, swirling into the abyss of fire and brimstone thrown about by Lucifer, now promoted to the King of Darkness. The dark symphony played the notes of doom as ice crystals big and small pelted the world around as hailstones that magically stayed frozen on the warm ground, almost an inch deep now. Hell was freezing over, and so now I could walk on water and did so in the yard, amazing all, wishfully dancing on the grave of Beelzebub. The bolts had flown, missing me, for I was still here. To the north, far beyond the hills and over the border, a rainbow arced towards me, landing at my feet and then colored me and my heart with happiness. Tonight, the big yellow honeymoon rose full, which meant that roses will soon bloom that way too, marking the beginning of summer. Toward the end of a sunny day, a storm came and washed away, and the sunset clouds, being glad, held a party for the returning lad. The sun then peaked, and soft shone into the mist of the departing squall. Its light split into party colors lone, separating each from the all. A bouquet of colored rays swirled into sight, and promised good weather for the rest of the night. The rainbow lit up the east, as long we attended the feast of both the east and the west, till into darkness we descended blessed. The stars guided the homeward flight by shining their jeweled lights of ruby, emerald, and sapphire in living colors of blazing fire.
Yes, ice cubes were falling this afternoon in the mountains of the Hudson River Valley in New York from a hailstorm, followed by such a torrential rain that you couldn't even see through it. I quickly went to buy some grass seed to put on a steep, muddy hill that was eroding, and so used this perfect time to seed it and rake it over, pulling out some large weeds to eat later, myself ever slipping and sliding down the slope, often touching some big rocks that then just easily rolled down the hill. I also fell in the mud once. I was dirty, sweating and dripping and almost done when heavy dusk arrived, the fog settling into the hollows all around, creating a kind of primeval scene. Then the full August moon appeared, and so I was able to finish. I stood and rested a bit. Some ancient frequencies began resonating in me, my brain and mind synchronizing and sympathizing with them. It felt like I was early sapiens. Then I took a short walk down the road and jumped into a pond that was clear, cool, and deep. The full moon's reflections on some ripples formed two straight strands, about 6 feet long, of pearls of little moons that seemed to be underneath the surface of the water. If I closed one eye, then there was only one strand. This was life being experienced, a result of what is. The message speaks, the messenger is secondary, unknown even. Live it, love it, be it.
Ostino woke up drenched in sweat and related his night dreams to Passiona. "Wow," she replied, "I hope that is not a toe vision of the future. Tell me some real tales as you promised." Ostino replied, "It might be, but okay, some here are some actual tales. The government had a place called Granite Mountain to retreat to during the Cold War, but its location became quite well known, and although it was secure, it was also a bit antiquated, so they built a new place, its whereabouts unknown even to me, a member of the Ninja Empire. Before the new place was completed, though, there was an atomic bomb threat to Washington, D.C., and so they all rushed there. The bomb was real and was coming up the Potomac River. When it was intercepted, it was found not to be diffusible, and so the CIA flew it to Granite Mountain, giving everyone 30 minutes to clear out, for that is when it was set to detonate. Then they dumped it down the elevator shaft deep into the mountain where it exploded, causing no real problems except within the depths of the mountain. I read a novel story about this. Needless to say, they were all shocked when the bomb was sent to their safe place, the only place nearby that could contain its terrible effects. "Can you tell me any more secrets?" she asked. "Okay, Passiona, now about the files of things that never happened that I happened to retrieve intact. As I worked for the Ninja Empire, I rendered the details of a recent escapade into the final TOE CIA report, using the highest powers of language in order to flesh out the truth in some living words that were finely dressed, and then, using the Grandmaster's pass, filed the account, after all had read it, into the tube of secrets of that which never happened, the one that led to the vault, 20 miles down into the earth, and then I noted the maintenance stairway beside it, where none had ever gone, and looked around. The Master knew that I would, to see it spiral down into Neverland. So strangely compelling it was that I ventured down underground beyond all sight and sound. My last report from those days was that I had to fake my own death and then hide out for a while. I'm only 5 miles up the stairway to heaven on earth, and am posting from my cell phone. I'm carrying all sorts of documents to the surface that have never seen the light of day. Oops, I just dropped the sad story of the Kennedy brothers, but I'd noted that the Mafia hired foreign assassins to cover their tracks. And there goes the report on Area 51, which was too long to read. I'm 6 miles up now, 17 more to go. I see the throne of doom, snakes curled all around and under it. "Cripes," Passiona responded. "That's the story, sweetie heart," said Ostino. "You're looking good, my dear Passiona. Now that 2023 is solved, we can get back to business. And I'll tell those secret stories soon. We'll go to the time chamber to live them out. The air is balmy and your motion is dynamic," she said. Passiona was so hot she had to cool off. And suddenly Passiona disappeared in a poof of vapor. For some reason, Ostino was suddenly covered head to toe with vapor, drenched with a very sweet scent. "Holy Toledo, Ostino, you make sure you keep those top secret files, documents and whatnot secure in your grasp. I am seriously curious, so curious in fact that you simply just must read every word to me. I'm dying to know what you have. And I might add about Area 51, I think they should release it."
Dear Seriously Curious, Ostino related. Right now I have a deadly container of biological germ warfare, if you are really dying to know. But I threw that away real fast. What I have is the President's book, written by past presidents and readable only by presidents in office. This is the only copy of all secrets, except for what I also have. At least those that the CIA told the presidents about. I have access, since I know the president, and to all the CIA secrets as well, DIA too. The current president, I dare not reveal his name due to the TOE Quest guidelines against discussing politics, but his name starts with O, was later of Chicago, Illinois, where I lived, but that's not where I met him. Only knowing him in Chicago all the more, there after he arrived, and rose to power as a senator. We met in Punahou, Oahu, Hawaii, at the basketball court of Punahou High School. He was on the team and I was a spectator, living between secret assignments in a tower in Punahou at one end of the rainbow that crossed over the Manoa Valley from the University of Hawaii. We kept in touch and the rest is history. Finally, we have a president who understands the value of science, But we still cannot talk about politics on Toe Quest, so please strike this. I will only be telling relatively old secrets maybe that have no current value to our enemies, plus we know that Toe Quest is secure, being of the Ninja Empire. I can also discount many rumors that are simply not true. For example, the Chinese are not trying to conquer us by slipping sneaky ingredients into vaccines and pharmaceuticals, of which they make many. It takes a long time to get approval by the FDA, plus the last thing any business would want would be to have the bad publicity of some huge tainted pill problem. Paranoia strikes deep. Anyway, according to Nelson DeMille, one time Russia was running a charm school to train its more whitish-looking northerners to pose as Americans to infiltrate our infrastructure. They were using our Vietnam prisoners of war as instructors of all aspects of American society. They even built a model of Main Street, USA, complete with working banks, hair salons, and the whole 9 yards of a football field. Not only did the instructors subtly teach the wrong stuff of inaccurate nuances, we found out about the place and nerve-gassed most of it, retaining some Russians to become double agents that then spied on Russia for us. Meanwhile, Ostino is still drenched in the alluring fragrance of the vapor that permeated on through to his soul. He said that the inundation of the bouquet of aroma was irresistible in its redolence. William of Ockham, known as Ockham, led a simple life, for he didn't have a wife.
Iran. Ever been to Iran? Asked Rascal of Austin. No, let's not go there. The giant bird flew on to the secret location of the Ninja Center. Ostino and Passiona were deep in thought. The mission was a dangerous one that Quester, Austin, handled like he handled everything else, expertly, and with swiftness not seen before, at least not since the demise of an agent left behind in Egypt, presumed dead. And also, the death was witnessed by all. He was, however, going to make a comeback in another chapter. A briefing was held on the mission. Iran was still unstable, and yet again had almost accumulated enough nuclear material to build a bomb to wipe their Jewish enemy off the face of the earth. It was really their doom that they advertised this aim. Their new facility was now underground, being impervious even to bunker-buster missiles, and it was now ultra-secure, there being no way to get into it or even close to it. Ideas, Quester, inquired the rascal. There has to be a way in, for everything leaks, does it not? How do they breathe in the control room? It is a completely self-contained system of internal oxygen, reconstitution, purification and ventilation. And what is it that is always necessary in air and plumbing systems in order to equalize the air and water pressure? A small vent, such as comes out of anyone's house roof. How do we get to it, rascal? We, as people, we cannot even get near it, for we would be detected. But a little radio-controlled car could. A bomb will not fit down that tiny shaft. Rascal, I do believe that you are leading me on and you already know the answer. I am and I do. I just like engaging your mind, old new buddy. How it is, rascal, that we can speak so freely to each other, without the sirs and deference and such, regardless of the difference in our ranks. Once I was you, Quester, a long time ago, and perhaps one day you shall be in my position. Please continue. We'll pour the deadliest acid known to man down the little pipe via a little remote-controlled wagon with a video camera on it. When this shit hits the fans, it will spray all over the place and eat through anything and everything. Quester, my good man, how can we cart an ultimate acid around that can destroy any container? Nothing can hold the universal acid. That's why they never make it. Exactly. We will use its safe and separate compounds, pouring one down and then the other upon it. When they mix, the uncontainable universal acid will then be formed. Good work, Quester. That's what every kid dreams of in chemistry class. They visualize it coming out in China and zapping some poor unsuspecting guy. This is how I once thought about it. As a boy in Dan Dennett's chemistry class, I wondered, as did others, about the following scenario that is often daydreamt of. 2 compounds were mixed, which, unfortunately, produced the ultimate acid. Nothing could contain it. It quickly ate, through the container, the floor of the laboratory, and then even all the way through the earth, eventually sloshing that poor sap in China.
This too is what may happen to us through education. as our chemical bioelectric nature is revealed to us, this being some kind of giant shockwave, after which we can never be the same again. The biochemical mush that is us, when fully realized, leaves us stunned and astounded. We grasp for what we once thought we were before, what we wished we were, but it eludes us in the new light of the learning of the natural sciences. The universal acid of such knowledge eats through all superstitions, folk tales and myths. Nothing can contain it. Some may come to even regret their learnings of this condition, unless they seek the truth, for it dissolves their container, leaving them floundering in the lurch. It happened to me too, beginning in 5th grade in Catholic school. But wait, it's not so bad, for what we are is still what we are, and we still have feelings, personality, and more adventures of learning that await. The light of education ever shines brightly, wherever it may lead. Many dark alleys remain to be explored, given our new insights into the human condition. Then too, we know that the state of being is not quite the same as the physical states beneath, which are not apparent, and so introspection alone is but a second story, and so one should wish to be informed by the first story, as revealed by science. Good one, Quester. When can we get this thing designed and built, sir? Dear Quester, our own Section 0 just built it yesterday. We're off in an hour. The fine details of this still classified mission cannot be written, due to their confidential nature. However, Quester and his angelic partner, whose name had now become Top Secret, sometimes had a wonderful and youthful time guiding the little radio-controlled vehicle, which was paned black, through the dark shadow areas cast by a pillar and more. There was no radar up to 2 feet above the ground, as it would have been constantly set off by squirrels, rabbits and mice and such. The mission had succeeded, so now it was time to leave. The waiting stealth aircraft had previous entered Iranian airspace, low and undetected, landing on a very long driveway of an estate secretly owned by the CIA, then quickly turned about. The escaping NIA team then boarded it, and the craft was soon up and away, its takeoff naturally alerting the Iranians. They sent up some interceptors as was expected, but observed nothing as was expected, for the stealth jet was now climbing to 50,000 feet and nearly achieving a Mach 3 speed. Ostino and his paramour, having up to now been pressed back into their seats by the G-forces, got up and retired to a private room in the back of the plane. Rascal lifted an eyebrow, it seemed, but it was really just a secondary effect of his wide and happy grin, for he too was young once. The next day, the president sat down to read his daily news briefing. Strange problem shuts down Iranian nuclear reactor. Irreparable damage and radioactive leakage. Site cemented over. A smile crossed the president's face on a day now brightened by one less problem in this dreary world of so many irrational governments and beings.
The operative in Egypt appeared to be dead. His would-be capturers had even approached and then retreated without him, not a very good sign of his liveliness. A while later, a creature, who looked very much like Gollum, emerged from the pyramid and dragged the body inside. This operative did not even have with him the death-imitating elixir that could be used to fool his takers, so he was therefore sadly declared deceased by the NIA. And yet, out he returned alive the next day, and walked off alone across the level sands. A few days later, Quester received a call from Rascal in which he asked, "Ever been to Tahiti?" Quester replied, "No, but I'd sure love to go." "Well, Quester, we, the NIA, are not going there. Ha ha on you." "Darn." "But you are actually Quester with the lady of your choice, compliments of the NIA. Please relax and re-energize and enjoy this fair paradise of French Polynesia. Should I think about Egypt while I'm there?" "Sure, if you like. Ever been there?" "So long. I'm going on vacation with Top Secret." Called the Island of Love, Tahiti is ever shrouded in legend. In Tahitian mythology, the supreme creator deity was Ta'aroa, also called Rua Itupra, the source of growth. Ta'aroa emerged from a cosmic egg and started the process of creation. To fill the emptiness around him, He used part of the egg to make the sky and the other part to create the earth. Satisfied with his accomplishment, he filled the world with all the creatures and things that are now found in it. The Tahitians believed that Ta'aroa sent both blessings and curses, and they tried to appease him with human sacrifices. The couple landed in Papeete and stayed in a hut built on posts, under which the ocean's waves splashed and sang. Now, south of the moon, they could see the Southern Cross and the Magellanic Cloud galaxies glittering on black velvet. Just before dawn, amid the dew and moss, elves ride on a moonbeam made of bugloss, and see the North Star and the Southern Cross in the same sky, most all the way across. The recent adventures eventually receded and faded, as the couple settled into island time and the traditions of fishing, cooking and singing and dancing on the beach, having an entire month to spend in French Polynesia, courtesy of our path. The Egyptian road may be long and hard, but there is a soft, sweet valley at the end. The flowers bloom once again. The born-again operative walked for miles on the sand, not an easy thing, then headed toward a weathered and sinking sphinx-like monument, noting, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed." And on the pedestal these words appear, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away.
The operative added further to this meaning, all that you love and cherish will one day be gone. Even all of the works of human beings will disappear in time. Everything with which we adorn ourselves shall ever dissipate and vanish. Yet, he strode on. All that you love and cherish will one day be gone. Ah, but not yet, thought Frederick, not yet. The secret chronicles continue, now far from what we would call reality, lying betwixt the enchanting masks of light that dwell about and between the frames of our living film. Rascal sat back and read this amazing report, sent by his operative, Frederick, who had somehow been reborn back into the glory of the living of this life. Gollum had dragged me into the concealed burial chamber of the Queen of the Pyramid, herself nearly half as old as time. Yes, the Egyptians almost had it right with their potions of elixir brewed to wake the dead, but they erred in embalming and wrapping the deceased, thereby ensuring that they would never wake, thus their Book of the Dead, rather than a Book of Life. My heart fluttered back toward life from the 3,000-year-old aroma of the chamber's tonic air that was the very spirit of life. The ancient queen bent over me, whispering, "This is true, my love, that the lightning again flashes in the light of your eyes. The clouds in my own heart explode with the soft new beating of yours. This is true, my love, your sweet lips become as red as those of a blushing bride. This is true, my love, that the seed of the tree of life once again flowers within you. Your mind awakens to follow the guiding rhythms of my own pure soul. The night shall ever weep dew at your sight upon the earth anew, and the morning will surround you with the dawning light of life's delight. This is true, my love, that the touch of your warm breath intoxicates your every being of life into and out of my spirit as well. This is true, my love, that the world will yet know your melodious songs. Go forth, my dear twice-born one, to walk the earth once more and help to bring evil to its knees." "What the heck?" said Rascal. "I too now believe in magic. Ah, the strange enchanting things that never happen around here that cannot ever be told."
In Tahiti, the universe shrunk to a point, with Questor and Top Secret having now become a love-made singularity within it that ever made it the cosmos starring in its entirety. With love came strength, that which could evermore bring the well-nigh impossible into its startling being. Rascal had given them another month. Evil had been slow and struggling lately, lying low. The regular army took care of the war zones. Now, on Bora Bora, the couple sat with the birds who hoped for crumbs at the dinner table, the slight tropical slant of sunset twilight heading the other way from that accustomed in the north. Yet the sun still plummeted as quickly as it did in the tropical regions. Their thoughts turned to the event of the fallen agent in Egypt, and so they had asked for a third glass, placing it upside down on the table, making a toast to the valiant one, Frederick, the first toast being of Omar's saying, then followed by two of their own. And when thyself with shining foot shall pass among the guests, star scattered on the grass, and in thy joyous errand reach the spot where I made one, turn down an empty glass, Omar, worthless and priceless. All the world's wealth cannot extend the power that drains the cup and withers the flower. What would be the price of a moment's breath purchased from death's hand at the final hour? A rebirth of sorts. I turn the cup, wine drops to thirsty lips descend. Can old Frederick rise anew, like spring grass ascend? Mournful rose petals kiss his grave, hence he arose. Now he lives again in the heart of his friend. While they looked off into inner space and considered their own mortality for a moment, an encrypted text message came in from Rascal. Your dearly departed friend most surely walks the earth again, as had been rumored. He was revived within the pyramid via some fumes from ancient times that were administered by a 3000-year-old Queen of the Nile from Nubia. I am looking into it, I just had to tell someone. Like phantoms from the tomb, Frederick's lamp relumes. Well, they nearly fell out their chairs, as night turned to day within them, soon coming up with another toast after a few minutes of the absorption of this awakening news. Secret Top picking up the empty glass and filling it with wine. Then a few drops she poured onto the ground, that precious drink of these quatrains profound. It through the soil trickled and seeped, as to his thirsty lips the way it found. To Frederick this cup flows, and through the grapes his life flows. The rumor is true. Says you, being who we are, Ostino, let's go and get our man. Leave no one behind.
The Egyptian road may be long and hard, but there is a soft, sweet valley at the end. The flowers bloomed once again. The born-again operative, Frederick, walked for miles on the sand, not an easy thing, then headed toward a weathered and sinking sphinx-like monument, noting, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Percy Shelley. The operative added further to this meaning. "All that you love and cherish will one day be gone. Even all of the works of human beings will disappear in time. Everything with which we adorn ourselves shall ever dissipate and vanish." Yet he strode on, near dead. "All that you love and cherish will one day be gone." Ah, but not yet, thought Frederick, not yet. The secret chronicles continue, now far from what we would call reality, lying betwixt the enchanting masks of light that dwell about and between the frames of our living film. Magic Dragon sat back and read this amazing report, sent by his operative, Frederick, who had somehow been reborn back into the glory of the living this life. Gollum had dragged me, Frederick, into the concealed burial chamber of the Queen of the Pyramid, herself nearly half as old as time. Yes, the Egyptians almost had it right, with their potions of elixir brewed to wake the dead, but they erred in embalming and wrapping the deceased, thereby ensuring that they would never wake, thus their Book of the Dead, rather than a Book of Life. My heart fluttered back toward life from the 3,000-year-old aroma of the chamber's tonic air that was the very spirit of life.
This is true, my love, that the lightning again flashes in the light of your eyes. The clouds in my own heart explode with the soft new beating of yours. This is true, my love. Your sweet lips become as red as those of a blushing bride. This is true, my love, that the seed of the tree of life once again flowers within you. Your mind awakens to follow the guiding rhythms of my own pure soul. The night shall ever weep dew at your sight upon the earth anew, and the morning will surround you with the dawning light of life's delight. This is true, my love, that the touch of your warm breath intoxicates your every being of life into and out of my spirit as well. This is true, my love, that the world will yet know your melodious songs. Go forth, my dear twice-born one, to walk the earth once more, and help to bring evil to its knees.
The waves were rough in the Egyptian harbor as Quester and Top Secret landed unobserved, noting the site of the once great Library of Alexandria that had met several burnings and other disasters, setting the world back at least 1,000 years. The first known library of its kind to gather a serious collection of books from beyond its country's borders, the library at Alexandria was charged with collecting all the world's knowledge. It did so through an aggressive and well-funded royal mandate involving trips to the book fairs of Rhodes and Athens, and a potentially apocryphal or exaggerated policy of pulling the books off every ship that came into port, keeping the originals and returning copies to their owners. This detail is informed by the fact that Alexandria, because of its man-made bidirectional port between the mainland and the Pharos Island, welcomed trade from the east and west, and soon found itself the international hub for trade, as well as the leading producer of papyrus and, soon enough, books. Section 4, an NIA group of international-looking assassins, had been quickly dispatched to Alexandria. Rascal followed, for Frederick had uncovered a plot to render the Suez Canal inoperative, plus some other actions unknown. As good luck would have it for the conspirators were now meeting in a hotel to finalize their plans. Frederick placed a call to his foes there, saying that he had just returned from the dead, describing them all and the activities that had led up to his demise, and that he was outside now and standing across the street for their verification. The word spread quickly, and so they pulled open the drapes, startled to see that it was indeed Frederick come back to life. Whilst they stood astonished, murmuring that he had had no pulse, Frederick quickly moved behind Pompey's pillar, the only ancient structure that had remained standing in Alexandria. Word of the conspirators' meeting room number was quickly sent to the other half of Section 4 that was already in the hotel. Some terrorists even stepped out onto the balcony. The conspirators' eyes went right to Frederick, now partly behind the pillar and sticking out, and waving his fedora, saying, "From heaven's heart I step on you." A curse meaning more that it sounded to, for in this part of the world the bottom of a shoe was a bad thing. Ancient history took a slight beating of pockmarks just before the Section 4 assassins opened fire, their other half doing the same from within the hotel, attempting to secure the plans of the plots within.
Freak ricochet caught Commander Rascal in the chest as he stood shielded in a doorway. No apparent harm being done by its impact. However, it somehow triggered a cascade leading to heart failure for the grand and aging man, and he soon fell to the ground, his color draining rapidly. Precious moments passed before Frederick could get over there. Quester and Top Secret, having been given positions as backups, provided a burst of cover fire. Finally, there was the silence in the hotel that indicated death or great injury to all the conspirators. And so the agents gathered around Frederick and the great and legendary 7-star Grandmaster. He was fading fast, everyone's eyes growing dim and downcast at his prospects. "Try this," Frederick suggested, as he pulled out an ancient-looking vial. The rascal inhaled the air obtained from the pyramid, and a fine color blush soon replaced the pale that he had nearly gone beyond. "Ah," said Rascal as he pretty much leapt up from the ground on his own. "It was just a scratch." He furthermore added that none of this ever happened. There was a ship in the harbor waiting, but it was now much too dangerous to use it. The local police all unaccountably having gathered there for the mere overturning of a donut truck. The operatives thus scattered and regrouped on a deserted desert road, whilst the police ate their donut desserts at the seashore. And all the terrorist conspirators lay dead as their own just desserts. The black rescue jet had just landed and awaited, a necessary risk. Later in flight, Frederick revealed another precious find, an ancient book that had survived the Alexandria Library, its title being of the nature of the quickness of being and the dead, where quick was what was anciently used to mean alive. But in another definition it was a pun of the Arabic language, such as in the quick and the dead. Rascal raised up a toast to the Queen of Nubia. We did very little, for she planned it all. Rascal went for a heart checkup, the doctor being amazed at the man's glorious state of health. Quester and Top Secret had settled in French Polynesia, now calling it home, although their work was still with the ninjas when necessary. They lived simple, not needing much. If the planet ever came to a disaster, they were ready, even having their own island now. There were frequent visits from the friends they had made on the other islands. In between, there was Toe Quest.
Imagine a world where we can manipulate the fundamental particles of the universe. A world where we can probe the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. Welcome to the world of particle physics, a realm where the impossible becomes possible, where the unseen becomes seen. In the heartland of America, nestled just outside Chicago, Illinois, lies the town of Batavia. It's a place known for its wild corn, geese, and buffalo. But Batavia is also home to something far more extraordinary, the famous collider known as the Tevatron at Fermilab. The Tevatron is a marvel of human ingenuity, a machine that produces 1000 GeV, a whole TV of energetic beams of protons and antiprotons. These beams smash together at 2 collision points, creating an explosion of energy and particles. One point tracks the effects of these collisions, while another measures the energy produced. In 1995, a remarkable discovery was made at the Tevatron. The heavyweight top quark, a particle not seen in the universe since the Big Bang, made its fleeting appearance. Although it didn't last long, decaying into a bottom quark and a W-charged gauge boson, it was enough to leave its signature behind. Finding this elusive top quark was no easy task. Scientists would have had to sift through 10 trillion collision events to find it. But thanks to the work of Lisa Randall, who developed a more precise way to interpret experimental results about weak reactions, this daunting task was reduced to a mere 100,000 reports. The world of particle physics is a frontier of human knowledge, a place where we push the boundaries of what we know about the universe. It's a world that is as exciting as it is mysterious, as intriguing as it is challenging. So, next time you think about the universe, remember the Tevatron and the top quark. Remember that we are capable of extraordinary things when we dare to explore the unknown. So, let us continue to probe the mysteries of the cosmos, to push the boundaries of our knowledge. Because who knows what we might discover next? Perhaps the key to understanding the universe lies hidden in the heart of a particle. Perhaps it lies waiting for us in the vast, unexplored wilderness of particle physics. Only time will tell.
One day, Rascal himself paid Quester and Top Secret a visit, several weeks after the Egyptian escapade, as it had become known, entering their Eden of Paradisea to see it for himself. Not bad, encouraged Rascal. Great, actually. Perhaps I shall obtain one of these retreats someday, maybe even soon, for a catastrophic disaster looms in Switzerland. They did not need to ask about that which he was about to tell them when he was ready to. Good to see that you still walk the earth, Rascal. Thanks for your service to me in Alexandria. Our pleasure. I was nearly a goner. Frederick gave his only vial to you, sir, rather than saving it for himself should he die again. Duly noted. And now Frederick is a 3-star NIA general in charge of the new forming Middle East quagmire, although he may not really consider that a promotion, haha. I really needed to delegate some work too. And the Queen of Nubia? Well, she helped us, so we must respect her privacy. The world would build a road to her door if they knew she could reverse death itself. Agreed. However, it only works on the nearly or the newly dead, not on the really, really dead. I thought so. Yes, so Elvis has truly left the building. Good one, Sir General, plus Napoleon will never reign again.
thankfully. But there will be new and wishful dictators. True. Now, Quester, you grew up in Illinois? Just outside of Chicago. Ever been to the town of Batavia? Yes, in 1972. I took a ride on my motorcycle to see the famous prairies, and then continued on to see the newly built collider called the Tevatron at Fermilab. And what did you see? I saw wild corn, geese, and even buffalo roaming at the site. Yes, it is a flatland wilderness of much wildlife. The perfect view of its outlying areas serves as a fine protection from any nefarious planers. True, and it produces 1000 GeV, a whole TV of energetic beams of protons and antiprotons that smash together at 2 collision points, one that tracks the effects and one that measures the energy. And in 1995, they found the heavyweight top quark, probably its first appearance in the universe since the Big Bang, although it didn't last very long. It decayed into a bottom quark and a W-charged gauge boson that communicates the weak force, which then of course soon decayed into leptons or quarks, but all that was its signature. Yes, and it was formerly hard to find. They would have had to sift through 10 trillion collision events to find it, but for Lisa Randall, who developed a more precise way to interpret the experimental results about weak reactions, then they only had to sift through 100,000 reports or so. I have a feeling that we will be talking to her.
You may. Now she is at the Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire, as it was first called. CERN. Now they call it Organisation Européenne pour la Recherche Nucléaire. URN. No, they still call it CERN, although they might have called it CORN. The World Wide Web was invented there too. Perhaps Al Gore worked there. Ha, not exactly. Anyway, Lisa has noted a new anomaly coming from somewhere outside CERN. They solved 2 of these anomalies previously on their own back at LEP, the Large Electron-Positron Collider that churns out Z bosons like a cheesecake factory. Instead of taking Z's, they needed to know the energy at which positrons and electrons collided so that they could measure the boson, so they could then go on to validate much of the standard model. Yes, they had to determine the precise value of the Z boson's mass. However, the energy seemed to rise and fall slightly when they measured it at particular times. Weather, rainfall, close it turned out to be the effects of the tides in Lake Geneva. This in turn altered the nearby terrain, which slightly altered the distance over which the electrons and positrons traveled inside the collider. Indeed, they have incredible precision. The second case was a slight misalignment of the electrons and positrons, indicating that the magnetic fields of the collider had some variations when a train went by. You got it? In particular, it was the TGV, the express train that travels between Geneva and Paris. One day there was a strike, and so the trains did not run. I have a feeling we may be riding on that train soon. Yes, if you accept the mission. Lisa is now at the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, isn't she? Where the precision is astronomical? Yes, it has 7 times more energy than the TV, and it's due to totally restart in October. But they did run some tests on it already. Lisa detected an inexplicable anomaly before it broke down for some other reason. Some kind of machine in the area, not just automobiles? Yes, a larger machine than a truck is suspected. CERN sits in a vast mountainous region, the opposite of the plains surrounding Fermilab in Batavia. We found a reference to a terror plot at LHC in the materials that we secured near Alexandria. It wasn't as obvious as it sounds. We had to break codes. Fooling with the LHC could destroy most of Europe. Indeed, and so we have to investigate. I have some satellite imagery indicating some metals in the area, some of them just deposits, of course. We'll go, said Top Secret. I am sending you both to Chamonix, a remarkable valley that runs between mountains covered with glaciers that used to descend almost to the roads, but that was before global warming arrived. You will be at the foot of Mount Blanc, the highest mountain in Europe. Other agents will check other areas, even the CIA, for this is a joint mission. However, trust no one. Your area is the one we suspect.
So we just walk right in? Pretty much, for CERN's main entrance is but a few feet away from the French border. They hardly ever bother with the scientists who cross it twice daily. Great security, huh? So, we need to keep this quiet, lest the terrorists get alarmed and move their machinery? Yes, as per usual. We would only flood the region if nothing else works. But this could cause them to accelerate their plan, which might still work to some disastrous degree. We'll get ready tonight. You and Top Secret will pose as married scientists who also like to get out and ski the Jura mountain slopes, as do many of the tan scientists there, as well as snowboarding and hiking. We are already tan and have learned how to survive in the wild. Plus, we are married and speak French, replied Top Secret. Huh? Oh, you're married. Well, the secret is out. Anyway, exactly. And so as such you two shall wander around much further and farther to investigate the concerns. As you are both from ToeQuest, you can talk the talk of science when need be. Lisa will be in touch with you, such as and especially if and when the anomaly returns, as this may be when our adversaries are testing their equipment. This is a big one, so I have informed the president. And the terrorists will look like what? They will look like regular people, not like the Taliban or anything like that. They may be posing as fake scientists as well, some of them actually having that knowledge, many just dumb lookouts perhaps. We're ready already actually, we traveled light. The sooner you acclimate yourselves to Switzerland, the better. And people thought that black holes produced by the LHC would destroy the world. Wrong as we know, but the ethics of some people have fallen into a bottomless pit, never to be retrieved. You're a good man, rascal, to protect the light of day. I tried.
Faustino and Passiona enjoyed Paris, and then the scenic train ride, while wondering where their quarry might be hidden among the rocks. Passiona began, since the LHC is quiet now, the Terra machinery may be as well, but for some more integration testing in both. The terrorists are not ready. No, they aren't, for they had their chance last year when the LHC went online for a while. And then the LHC failed for lack of a 10-cent part. But for that, this might have all been a wasteland already, but I still feel that our enemy must have much work yet to do. So, the terrorists wouldn't just set up shop in a house or a building, would they? No, for the emanations would be noticed or disrupt someone's cable TV service. Plus there are business inspections, tax appraisals and such. So they may be up in the mountains, which is a really vast area, but they would still need an electric source, either from generators or from a power line. How would they be getting these machine parts to this remote location? That is the question. Piecemeal somehow, plus they need food.
Faustino and Passiona got off the train. Lisa Randall was waiting for them at the station and drove them across the border and into CERN with no fuss whatsoever. The anomaly is a definite problem, stated Lisa. It has an unnatural source, as we are quite familiar with the natural ones, and it was observed twice, so it was not a fluke. We'll look around, answered Passiona. We'll find it if it's in our area, which is, of course, quite extensive, but we are not alone in this endeavor. Lisa perked up. I can narrow that down. They would need a direct line of sight to the LHC. Faustino looked out the panoramic window. Entire mountain ranges came into view. So whatever we can see from here is where they might be. Passiona gleamed, but the closer the better for what they have to build within their constraints. I'd say so, Lisa confirmed. Well, Faustino said, we're off to find the needle that could burst the bubble of the Ring of Hadrons. Good luck, answered Lisa, for there is a large sub-function test coming up within a month. Faustino, Questa, and Passiona, top secret, soon got into the swing of environs of Mount Blanc and its events, improving their skiing talents, and then hiking some trails at random, some at mid-mountain and some towards the base, although not really expecting to chance upon something so luckily and immediately. They ticked off a vein of iron ore as being no longer suspected and tracked along some power lines, but the spurs were endless, and very hard to follow. As expected, nothing of interest appeared for the first 2 weeks. In between excursions, the tropical couple feasted at the restaurant on top of the mountain, speaking in both French and English with the patrons. Now and then they recognized a DIA, NIA or CIA operative, but said nothing, for they didn't exist. If anyone was watching them, they would have not noted anything unusual in their demeanor or in their conversations, only that they were serious scientists, sometimes overhearing statements like this: "When the universe was born, it was smaller than an electron, which is a quantum object that can exist simultaneously in many states. So the universe must also be a quantum object and exist in many states. Or, for a universe to generate itself, it would have to exist before it existed. Even I wonder what life an electron would have. A very electrifying life charged with zing. There were many trails to check out, both regular and expert, which they could now accomplish. So, just for adventure and of some insight, each time they had a choice, they took the more difficult path. While enjoying the dip of a bowl, as skiers called it, they spotted a trail off to the right that had a closed sign on it. While this was not unusual, they quickly turned their skis sideways, the edges digging in and slowing them to a stop, within a spray of snowy ice crystals flying and glittering in the sunlight.
What if the very fabric of our universe was not as we know it? What if it bore an anomaly that defied our understanding of physics? It's a question that haunted Ostino and Passiona as they disembarked from their train, their eyes meeting the gaze of Lisa Randall, who stood ready to escort them into the heart of CERN. An anomaly, certainly a problem, Lisa professed, her voice echoing their shared concerns. It's unnatural and it's appeared twice. It's no fluke. She drove them across the border into the very belly of the beast, a realm where the laws of physics danced and swirled in ways that might have seemed fantastical to the uninitiated. "We'll find it," Passiona declared, her voice filled with determination. "We have a vast area to cover, but we're not alone in this." Lisa, ever the optimist, chimed in. They would need a direct line of sight to the LHC. Ostino, peering out of the panoramic window, took in the breathtaking view of the mountain ranges. So, anything within our sight from here could be the source. Passiona's eyes sparkled with excitement. "And the closer the better." Lisa nodded. "I'd say so." Ostino chimed in with a bit of humor. "Well, we're off to find the needle that could burst the bubble of the Ring of Hadrons." Lisa wished them luck, a hint of worry in her voice. "There's a large sub-function test coming up within a month." Ostino and Passiona threw themselves into the rhythm of life around Mount Blanc, improving their skiing skills, hiking random trails, all the while scanning their surroundings for anything out of the ordinary. They brushed off the occasional DIA, NIA, or CIA operative, keeping their conversations strictly scientific and often philosophical. When the universe was born, it was smaller than an electron, they'd say. So the universe must also be a quantum object and exist in many states. Or they'd ponder, for a universe to generate itself, it would have to exist before it existed. Their discussions would even take whimsical turns. "I wonder what life an electron would have," to which the reply would be, "A very electrifying life charged with zing." The pair ventured down many trails, choosing the more difficult path each time, seeking not just adventure, but insight. Then, one day, they spotted a trail with a closed sign. Not unusual, but something made them stop, their skis spraying a shower of ice crystals into the air. They exchanged glances. Was this the anomaly they'd been searching for? Or was it just another dead end? The truth, it seems, will have to wait until next time.
Passiona noted after some time. He didn't even remind us that this section was closed. He seemed to be quite an odd fellow. Indeed, even odder than it is to be English. Yes, overdoing those chaps and more that you already know.
There is something else nagging at the back of my mind. The smoking? Yes, but I suppose anyone might do that. Something more. The way he smoked? Yes, it looked awkward. I've got it. When we first saw him, he lit and held the cigarette differently, as in the German-Russian style. And then when we approached, he switched it to the Western style. Good eye. He is not an Englishman, but a white Russian, as Rascal once told me about when his team raided a Soviet charm school in his younger days. They were training spies in the ways of Americana. So, why is he here now but not earlier? Perhaps there is a delivery coming. They sat for an uneventful while of over 3 hours. No one entered the closed area, although a few paused at a picnic table near to it, and then skied on. Then there was no one. What do you think? We'll check it again tomorrow. Some of the ski packs looked bulkier today. Yes, but the non-Englishman probably waved them on and away, because we landed on his doorstep. Yes, but we could be making a lot of ado out of nothing. Maybe he is on our side, so to speak, the new KGB or something. Could be, but let's send out a readiness alert just in case. The deliveries will probably try to happen again tomorrow, if indeed that's what they are. The loving couple slept and loved the night away as if there were no tomorrow. The happenings are confidential. The next day they took up a spot with a better view and raised their binoculars. A different man was there, sitting in a folding chair. It says ski patrol on his jacket. Yet the jacket is not quite his size. He must have found it somewhere. Do they think we are stupid or something? What an insult to the NIA. I might have to report this post. 2 hours later, a skier with a bulky pack swooshed into the closed area and onto the animal trail about 50 feet downslope from the folding chairman. They put someone else on duty, but neglected to alter the motif. Yes, and they could have just as well had no one looking out, and so then we would have been none the wiser. True, someone is becoming paranoid. By posting a lookout, they have only managed to give away their position. Yet the overall plan is ingenious. Easy access in and out, the cover of the public ski area, the closed area, a power line spur connection wired perhaps. I can see CERN in the distance. Would you care to ski in the moonlight on the brightly lit snow? Yes, tonight. Call back up and raise the alert for Section 7 to have their motors running. And I'll call Rascal. All because of a litterbug. Luck happens. We would have found it eventually. Before or after Armageddon.
Midnight arrived and passed. The apparently undisciplined terrorists would be drunk or asleep by now, except for some watchmen grown bored by nothing much ever happening but a moose wandering by. Ostino and Passiona wore white, the better to blend in with the snow lit by the nearly full moon. They skied soft but sure, entering the closed area and then the side trail, their backup slightly behind them by a few minutes. It was much darker in there, in places due to the tall fir trees, so they flipped down their night goggles. The trail was long and winding, indeed coming within a few feet of the edge, another fine deterrent to those who might wander this way unawares. They had skied perhaps 3 miles. The path was rough and tortuous. It was nearly 1 a.m. I really hope there's something in here. There is. These tracks ahead of us are fresh, plus some were made by a snowmobile, one way of getting back up and out. They stopped and looked. What's that ahead? It's not ahead, it's a power station. The brickwork looks new. The guard is asleep outside. They've run a cable along the ground to that electric tower way over yonder. Jump over it if we end up going out that way in a while. Yes, for we don't have a snowmobile. There is always a back way out for an emergency escape. Go downhill if there is a choice. Let's make the call now and then take that guard out. Yes, and if anything happens to us, Section 7 won't get our next call and will then come in anyway. If we're fine, we'll bring them in all the sooner. Passiona loaded a dart. It hit the guard in the neck, he toppling over ever so gently. Then his whiskey bottle fell onto a rock and shattered. Some men soon began pouring out of the power station, stumbling a bit, some with guns. our dear couple made the confirmation call and were already heading down a sloping trail, this being the terrorists' back door and way out. They stopped after a bit, not wishing to become targets by their movement through an open bowl just beyond and below. They may not shoot, as this could give their position away, as they may not know that we already know. Yes, if they're smart, although these pot-shot sounds might not be so loud once they are heard way down in the valley. But they must now suspect some listeners about. However, some shots rang out, a few landing nearby. They're not smart. Yes, but the shots are random. They don't know where we are. We can't stay here forever. I hear a snowmobile engine starting up. We have auto GPS. Section 7 can tell friend from foe. Where are they? Hark! I hear the whispering rotors. Stay down.
Choppers were coming up the slope, the cannons blasting the area about the power station. Troop ships followed, Section 7 rappelling down to the ground a short distance away from the power station. A snowmobile exploded but 200 feet away from Ostino and Passiona. Way off in the distance, they could see skiers wearing rifles passing by at the point where the traveled trail had met the cliffs. I believe I saw Rascal in that first chopper. The guy loves to be close to the action. And so do we to each other. Kiss me. The US president called his counterpart in Switzerland, waking him up. After a brief conversation, it became clear to both sides that there was no need to look into the incident any further, for indeed, it never happened. A week later, the LHC subfunction test began. There was no anomaly. Lisa smiled to herself. Precision had won the day. In a few months, they could begin the search for the Higgs particle. The discussion of the LHC mission accomplished was held in the ultra-secure general's bunker. "You're on stage, guys," Rascal encouraged Ostino. "I was surprised to see you in the lead chopper, General. We don't need for you to die again so soon." Well, our lead pilot had the flu, and I had a lot of training as a warrant officer years ago and thought I'd fill in. The downdrafts of the mountains are always a problem, as well as the thin air that strains the rotors. My leaden foot was needed. Your approach was excellent, Rascal, as was the cannon fire upon the station and the destruction of the oncoming snowmobile. You even purposely sent a mini blizzard into the eyes of the other terrorists streaming out. Thanks, but we all worked together. Your skiing backups laid down some impressive fire, so my chopper was not in any immediate danger. Then the full ski force came in to seal that exit and the fates of many evildoers. And of course, there was your astute identification of the location of the terrorists and their hideout.
Passiona asked of Rascal, had the terrorists succeeded, would a large region have been radiated beyond repair? Yes, but it would much worse that you are suggesting. All of Europe? No, larger. My God, what? There are some things that I should never tell. But by saying so, you did. Yes, indeed, for you all should know. Rascal asked them to lean in, to hear a whisper, more so for the drama than anything else, and to forever remember it. They approached the grand old man, being almost eye to eye. Rascal stating softly, "Nothing less than the entire planet would have been rendered uninhabitable forever." No one spoke for a while. "Perhaps the Mayan calendar was off a few years," Rascal added. "Did the LHC really fail on its own because of some magnet? No, we shut it down as a precaution. Suppose that the terrorists' attack had begun. Lisa was going to turn the LHC beams toward the incoming signals if necessary to avert a total disaster. It would have saved the day, but would have blasted a large portion of Mount Blanc away. Wow, it will be hard to beat this story, at least for the scope of its possible bad ending. I have other stories that are not so vast in an ugly conclusion, but have even more varied and interesting aspects. From your early days and from your later days of field command. Indeed, and soon we shall sit down, pour some wine, light a few cigars, and play some exciting music at a low volume while I tell you all about them. I was called Rascal back then. Such is the full story of the charm school and the attempted replacement of the Soviet leader. Yes, for those are intertwined, and more, such as other Iranian mishaps and a stolen nuclear submarine. Come prepared to relax and listen for quite a while. I've been dying to tell someone. It will be like hearing a book that has never been written, for it never happened. Yes, consider it fiction.
Hark, I hear the whispering rotors. Stay down. Choppers were coming up the slope of the Alps, the cannons blasting the area about the power station. Troop ships followed, Section 7 rappelling down to the ground a short distance away from the power station. A snowmobile exploded but 200 feet away from Ostino and Passiona. Way off in the distance, they could see skiers wearing rifles passing by at the point where the traveled trail had met the cliffs. I believe I saw the general in that first chopper.
The guy loves to be close to the action.
And so do we to each other.
Kiss me.